The U.S. economy is making steady recovery, and our hope and belief is that will continue. Europe is slowly inching forward, though with a little more uncertainty, I think, over the next 12 to 24 months. And Asia, at least for our business, because of the big cross-border nature of it, is still continuing to boom. The thing that I think is different than it was 12 months ago is there's more potential for volatility. We see that in Russia, we see that in some other markets, where whether it's politically inspired volatility or global security inspired volatility or economic volatility. But in our plans, we're just being conscious that volatility is, I think, something that's here to stay. We compete in the global e-commerce and global digital payments businesses. And so both of those businesses have been growing rapidly as e-commerce has gained share of retail and digital payments has gained share over physical payments. So typically e-commerce is growing 3 to 4 times faster than GDP, and we see that continuing. What's changing is the line between e-commerce and retail, online and offline, is blurring. Mobile technologies is causing that to blur. So for us, we just see a much larger addressable market as digital technologies enable consumers to shop and pay in new ways at home, at work, and in the physical world. There are still issues around security, cybersecurity, there are issues around privacy, and there are other societal issues that are emerging because of the rapid emergence of technology. And we don't always have legal systems and processes and norms among citizens that are established. So I think we're going to have some periods of at least discernment, if not bumpiness, over the next 3 to 5 years on those fronts. The role of any internet company is to protect its customers in providing the safest possible experience, and to be as transparent as possible around privacy. Now, when you step back and look at the role of a company versus the role of a government, clearly if we're going to provide the safest possible experience in aggregate, government and companies need to work together. And I think we're still in the early days of that being done in effective ways. Some of the legal norms and standards haven't yet been developed as they are in the physical world, have not been developed in the digital world. But that's a direction I think where we need to make progress. I also think the theme of transparency, which isn't always there for governments, is going to be important. And I think the only way to provide a safe experience for consumers and citizens is to be transparent as you can be. So there's a lot of dialogue going on between governments and companies right now on this front. The entire move toward e-commerce and the digitization of commerce and the digitization of payments are disruptive trends or phenomenon in that they're changing how consumers behave and the opportunities that sellers have to connect with those consumers. And that's going to continue. And so our challenge is we need to continue disrupting ourselves before someone disrupts us. And so the competition that I worry most about in many cases haven't been created yet. It's a new company, a new technology, a new business model that looks at this blurring between online and offline, looks at this enormous opportunity where technology can enhance a consumer's experience, buying and paying, and then come up with something new. So we're investing a lot in innovation. We're experimenting and trying to learn from our experiences, and it's an enormously exciting time. I can't imagine a more exciting time. The most important innovation is innovation around our core business. And often those are incremental innovations. They're small things that make a big difference. So in the eBay business, if we improve search effectiveness being improved 2% really moves the needle on our growth. Or for PayPal, if we improve our risk models 2%, it really moves the needle on growth. So we focus a lot of our energy on innovations around the core, which often are less exciting or less sexy, but are critical to maintaining really competitive experiences. Our second category of innovation are natural extensions from our core businesses. Things where we're a new format or a new product feature that helps extend our product or our service to new areas and arenas. An example of that might be in eBay when we bought StubHub. And then the third bucket of innovation is the more disruptive innovation. That's a more greenfield innovation. The ones that you say, I'm not sure if it's going to work or it's not, but we're going to drive and give it a try. And we tend to think about our innovation resource allocation as 70, 20, 10. 70% focused on core innovation, 20% on adjacent innovation, and 10% on the more disruptive or greenfield innovation. And one's not better than the other. You just got to be clear how you approach each differs dramatically, and how you measure success in each differs dramatically. The biggest technology trend or phenomenon since the creation of the internet is just mobile technology, and the way the mobile phone's becoming the central control device in our lives. And that's going to extend. That's going to extend where we're going to have sensors or connected points all around us. And I think we're going to have increasing screens all around us where you can access and engage with the internet through mobile and other technologies. The notion that we type into our smartphones is going to seem archaic 5 years from now, would be my thesis. That the ability for speech recognition or visual identity recognition is going to explode over the next 5 years. We're right at the cusp, I think, of some real breakthroughs. And so the ability to engage with our devices, whether they're a smartphone, whether it's a connected screen in our home, whether it's our laptop, how we engage with them, use of touch, use of voice, use of visual identity, I think is going to create new opportunities of how we engage and will shift how we use those things in our life. If you walk into a physical retailer today and you shop, in many ways it's similar to the way it was 20, 30 years ago. I think over the next 5 years, you're going to see technology fundamentally change how a consumer can shop and pay in the physical world. So the way these emerging technologies can change the consumer's experience in physical retail and physical payments. Let me give you an example. We're working with a couple of retailers, Rebecca Minkoff and Nordstrom, where we'll install mirrors in a dressing room where the consumer have a touchscreen mirror where they bring in a pair of pants and they can, from the dressing room, order a different size to be brought in for them, or order a shirt that matches from them. Get suggestions and recommendations based on the visual identity from the mirror, seeing what the merchandise is. Similarly, they'll be able to shop for accessories. They'll be able to check out from the dressing room. If you just look at the ratio of men and women coming out of many of the leading engineering and technology schools, it's heavily skewed toward men. And all that means is we need to work even harder at all levels. So one of the things, for instance, we're getting involved with is Girls That Code. It's an organization that helps encourage girls in middle school to get exposed to computer science and get exposed to technology, to build some competence in it, to build some confidence in it, and to recognize that technology is cool. And so I think it starts at grade school, middle school, through high school, to get more women who are interested in math and science, so that when we are hiring them out of college and graduate school, there are greater numbers to recruit from. And then the second piece, the ones we've got, we have a strong women's network at eBay and PayPal, and we'll continue to invest in growing and developing that talent pool and pulling them into leadership positions. One of the areas that has been a wonderful source of the more disruptive innovation for us is acquisitions or acqui-hires. And we've made 30 acquisitions more or less over the last 5 years and have 25 of the founders still working with us. And many of these founders bring a very different mindset, what I call a founder's mindset. They think differently. They see opportunities where others see obstacles. They're incredibly customer focused and not afraid to take risk. They're not afraid to fail. And so we've bought these many small companies and we've taken the founders or the founding management teams and embedded them around areas where we want to develop more disruptive innovation. And they love it because they have the opportunity to innovate at scale as part of our global organization. They have a chance to drive an innovation that can impact 150 million consumers around the world. But in managing innovation, I think it's important to not over-celebrate the disruptive innovation, but also to recognize the more core innovation in the core that really moves the needle. And often that requires a slightly different skill set. That may require someone that has the experience and bandwidth to be able to expand something global or roll out a global product or understand how you drive reliability in a commerce ecosystem that's doing $250 billion of commerce. So we make a strong effort to attract both kinds of talent and celebrate both. One of the things we look for in talent is, can they think like a consumer? Can they think like a customer? And can they think like customers will think today and in the future? One of the things we have invested heavily in is college recruiting, for the simple reason that the younger generation grew up with technologies in a different way, and they are able to, in many cases, envision how it can be used. It's interesting, a 30-year-old engineer grew up with one set of technology and envisions how it can be used, different than the set of technology that a 22-year-old engineer grew up with, and their ability to envision how the future will be. And so it's important for us to have a pipeline of an ongoing pipeline where we refresh with the younger generations who can imagine different and new things, partnered with people that understand what it's like to actually make those things happen and innovate at scale globally. So it's a robust talent strategy has to have a constant refreshment of, I think, youth and young talent into the organization. Any CEO in today has to be reaching outside their core industry or the core people they deal with on an everyday basis. In my case, I spend a lot of time with startups and founders in areas that are adjacent, maybe not directly in commerce or directly in payments, and understand how are they thinking about innovation? How do they think about technology? How do they think about how consumers will behave? How do they think? Just getting exposure to that has been enormously valuable. So I think probably CEOs in every industry are reaching out beyond their traditional networks, beyond the traditional ecosystems to learn. And that makes the job both stimulating and it makes it fun.